In 2014, Ben Bowns signed for the Cardiff Devils to be the starting goalie as the new era of the club launched. Touted as the next big British goaltending prospect, Ben attacked his chance to make a mark and quickly established himself as one of the best goaltenders in the Elite League, regardless of nationality. 6 seasons later, and the trophy cabinet is bulging, with 2 league titles, 2 playoff championships, 3 conference titles, and 2 challenge caps. Along with a host of individual accolades, Ben has cemented himself in Devils folklore. His club success, coupled with stand-up performances in Pool A for Great Britain, it was only a matter of time before the lure of bigger opportunities came calling. It's now been announced there is to be a Bownsy wave goodbye to the Cardiff Devils as Ben begins a new challenge in Graz. We caught up with Ben to discuss his time in Devils colours and his excitement about his plans for the future.
Okay, Ben, before we start on your Cardiff adventure, I'd like to go all the way back to where you started with the Steel Dogs. It was your home city, they have a homegrown philosophy. How much did that form your mindset as a professional hockey player?
I think it had a big one, but I mean, it probably started even when I was even younger. I mean, we had an awesome coach in John Robotham back then in the juniors, and he always had like that winning mindset, a winning mentality, and even in training, I can remember it was something as simple as having a Dallas Stars jersey, and that'd be a star of training kind of thing. So everyone wanted that jersey, but no, I mean, to go into the Steel Dogs and spend 3 years there were absolutely brilliant. Obviously, the first year with the Scimitars before the change of name, but yeah, I mean, playing with those guys all my junior career right up to my first few senior careers in semi-pro, it was something special, and obviously the guys that I spent the time with. I mean, there were one guy called Lloyd Gibson who I was really good friends with, well, my best friend as a kid, and the first time I ever stepped on the ice was with Lloyd, and my first 3 years, we're playing alongside him, and he had a big part to play in the team just like I did. So when you look back and you kind of think about things like that, it does hit home and makes you realise kind of like how special it was, and probably should have took more of it in, but when you're a bit younger, you don't really take things in like that.
Was it around this time that Pasi Raitanen was an influence on your career as well?
Yeah, that would have been the first year with the Scimitars. Yeah, so yeah, I could have forget about Pasi there. He'll probably send me a text when he sees this now and say, what was that all about? But yeah, Pasi Raitanen, Pasi were a massive influence on my career. He still is, still talk to him. I mean, he was at my wedding last year. That's how close we still are. So yeah, my first ever year in the seniors, and I got a friend for life through Pasi, and the things he taught me and the things I learnt from him, not necessarily just in the game but away from the game as well, and in the build up to games, now you prepare, it really opened my eyes, his way of doing things, and I still carry some of those things with me now.
You made the step up from the Steel Dogs and you made a move to Hull. Nervous about that move, stepping up?
Yes and no. I mean, I'd had 2.5 years, 3 years of training with them, and been through 2 training camps with them. I think my first ever game time was in Nottingham, and I think I got the last 5 or 6 minutes maybe, and yeah, I can remember my first shot was a breakaway. But then what's funny about that is my first shot, and that was a break. I think it were, actually I can't remember what it were, but anyway, I had the breakaway my first shot in Nottingham that were, and then my first start actually for Hull as the main netminder was against Nottingham in the league, and my first shot in that game were a breakaway from Clarkey as well. So it's kind of funny how things kind of work out in a line. But yeah, I was nervous. I mean, you're stepping up. You're a Brit goalie. You got a lot of question marks because on top of being British, I'm young. You're unproven, but I mean, I felt like I was ready. That my last year in the UPL, I did really well, and won a few awards. My stats were right up there, and everything like that. And as a team, we really overachieved, and it felt like I needed to get out there and test myself a bit more. So when Klutz sat down with me just before the end of that season, said we'd like to have you in Hull, it was pretty much a no-brainer for me.
It was a little bit up and down off ice in Hull during your time there. Looking back, do you think that helped build a bit more character in you to be able to kind of see all different sides of what Prolife could throw at you?
Yeah, obviously you get to see the downsides and they stick with you, but I think for me I was probably still young and a bit naive, and I'd been part of a Steel Dogs club that were the first 2 years that were there, the Scimitars, and the first years of Steel Dogs, that were kind of ran a bit more as a not a poor club, but they were strict on what you could have. You had a limit on how many sticks you could have a season before you had to start paying and things like that. So I were kind of used to playing in a low budget team, not just wages wise but also kit wise and everything like that. So for me it were kind of just, it was the same kind of scenario but stepping up to a bigger level. But yeah, I know being around some of the pro guys there that had been in good situations before and come to that in Hull. And I mean, me personally, I never had a problem, and Bobby and Debbie there were always awesome. I mean, and so were Klutz as a coach.
You then start talking to Cardiff, who themselves at the time had a little bit of trouble as well. Was the big pull for you moving to a different conference? At the time there was the conference system in place and Cardiff were in the quote-unquote stronger conference. Was that a big part of your reason to explore Cardiff as an option?
Yeah, that was the main one. Cardiff were the only team that would really have me in that conference as well, which were another big reason why I had no choice in this conference. But I'm glad it worked out that way. I mean, I actually approached Brent Pope the year before we were away with GB in Hungary, I think it was. I think that was the year we got relegated, and we were sat eating. And that year, I think we'd beat Cardiff to the Challenge Cup, to the next stage of the Challenge Cup. Because back then it's still the same in it now, but the group stages, and I think that was the first time Hull had made it out. And I texted him and said, would you be interested in having me once my contract's run out in Hull? I really want to improve myself and test myself at that level, and I feel like I could give you a bit of an advantage compared to what you have now. And back then they had awesome goalies, but obviously they were struggling a bit more than what they're used to, and having that Brit goalie would give you that little boost. So then, yeah, it was a case of, it was a positive message that they sent me back. It was quite nice, and it was a case of just making sure that I did well again at Hull and improved on that first year there. And yeah, at the end of that second year, it was between obviously Hull would have liked me back, but it was between Cardiff and Glasgow, or Braid back then. And yeah, it's like you say, it would be more money at Braid, but it was in a different conference. And when you're young, for me, it's not all about money. It's about proving yourself and testing yourself at the highest level that you can.
And that ambition, I guess, in that decision paid off as you're on a beach on your holiday and you get the famous Neil Francis text that it's all changed, but your position is safe. Does that just, well, what does that do to your mindset and your feelings on the season? You're going from coming into a club that's maybe not expected to do much, and now there's this wave of optimism that the Cardiff Devils are looking to build something much bigger. That must have really appealed to you massively.
Yeah, I can remember, like, I was excited as soon as I signed anyway, but then obviously, like I said, I got that text from my mum and we were out, and that kind of put a big downer on thinking, oh God, maybe Todd won't want me. And like you said, when Franny did message me, or I got the message from Franny, which was about 6 hours after he'd sent it, and I'd been panicking all day. That was such a big relief for me, and if anything, it made me even more excited knowing that Todd was taking over. I was around Belfast before. You knew that all of a sudden the profile of the club was just going to shoot up, and the opportunities were going to get better and better and better. And yeah, it just made me more and more excited. And I can remember him ringing me and asking me to come to the Meet the Owners thing, but we got back we were on holiday at Fuerteventura with friends. Actually, one of the players from the Steel Dogs at the time, Chris Sykes, and so just going back to that first question on that one, but yeah, we were out in Fuerteventura and we weren't due to land, I think, whatever day the Meet the Owners event was on. I think we were supposed to land early hours of that morning, and then obviously we had to drive to Cardiff, and on top of that, Jade had tonsillitis, I think it was, or something like that, which weren't too great. But I told her to stay at home, but she was adamant that she wanted to come down and just meet people. So I can remember driving, and Jade was really ill, but my mum drove us down. Yeah, and we spent the day in Cardiff and come to that event. And as soon as we had that event, it was amazing. I think that event was perfect, and it just set the tone from Todd speaking, Steve speaking, the players going up. It was just a different level, and it made you realise, like, yeah, we're in a proper hockey city now, and it's got some real history around this franchise.
And that was only, I think, 6 weeks before the season is due to begin. Within 6 weeks, you have a new raft of teammates who descend upon the Big Blue tent, and two in particular I want to touch on, who not just that first season, but a few seasons after, really formed a special partnership in front of you, Andrew Hotham and Mark Richardson as a defensive pairing. How quickly did you realise that that was a special twosome in front of you?
Well, I mean, I played with Richie for a few years with GB. I loved Richie right from the start. Right from when I were still under 20s. That was when I had my first year with the men's, and I was still in the EPL then. And yeah, they could have obviously treated me like a piece of rubbish playing in a league below them kind of thing. But no, Richie's one of them that were really open right from the start, really honest, and I always got on with him. So I'm looking forward to playing with him. And Hoth, I can remember it might have been in one of the pre-season games actually. I mean, I can just remember there being a bit of a scramble around the net, and usually guys would just swing at it and get it out there, just clear it. And he actually toe dragged someone right on top of my crease and just chipped into the corner, skated after it and got it and broke everyone out. And I'm thinking, God, man, he's got some balls to start with. But yeah, it made you realise just how good he were. And I think Richie gave Hoff the freedom to do what he did and be Hoff, really, because Hoff knew that Richie'd always got his back if he did make a mistake every so often. But at the same time, if Richie ever needs to go forward, Hoth will back there because he was just as good defensively as he was offensively. So I mean, yeah, that pairing it's got to be up there as the best D pairing I've played behind.
Talk to me a little bit from a goalie's perspective in how a defensive core can improve you and how you can improve them. How can you kind of give us a glimpse into how that relationship works?
Well, I know this story as a goalie. I mean, you look at our position, it's almost like an individual sport within a team sport. You're on your own, your own little crease. You can't come out of that really. And obviously, if a goal gets scored, they look at you for making a mistake before anyone else. And then at the same time, you're never going to get any credit, as you shouldn't really do, for goals at the other end. So you're stuck on your own really. So that defensive core is a big thing for you as a goalie. And there's stories about goalies that are kind of selfish in the views and the ways, and any mistakes they'll let the D men know and stuff like that. And I'm the complete opposite of that. I mean, for me, I need my D more or as much as what they need me, and the team needs me. So I'll be super vocal out there, but I'll never be negative. I'll tell them if something needs changing or whatever, but it's always good positive stuff. And that's one comment that I do quite like getting, especially if the new guys like, oh, I've not played with someone that's quite as positive as you. But no, for me, like you've got to be tight. You've got to be on the same wavelength. You've got to be as one. And we always sat at the same end of the room as Laudo Lights, and we always had a good bit of camaraderie between us, a good bit of banter. But when it comes to game day and actually doing and getting on with certain things in training, you've all, like I say, you've got to be on that same wavelength. And if I make a mistake, I need them to be there to bail me out. And if I'm being a bit of an idiot around them, that's the last thing they're going to want to do. I mean, you see how many shots Richie blocks a game, and he's not going to do that if he don't like me, in my opinion. So yeah, it's I need them as much as they need me. I mean, I probably even need that more.
What is he made of, Mark Richardson? We've mentioned it a few times in commentary over the years. He doesn't seem to react to that piece of vulcanised rubber smashing him in the thigh. Sometimes
I wonder myself what he's made of. I mean, there's games where he probably makes more saves than me because he's blocked more shots than what I have. But yeah, Richie's he's a special one, Richie, and I think people will start to appreciate him even more when he does eventually retire, probably in another 20, 30 years knowing Richie, but he'll be on his 4th testimonial by then. But yeah, he's awesome to have in front, and it's not just his blocking shots, it's everything about his game. It's right up there as one of the best ever, I think, in this league.
One thing you did do to improve yourself was go to Calgary in the summers to be part of a goalie clinic there. Was that your idea? Was that Steve King's idea? Who put all that together for you?
I believe the first person to mention it was Laudo. I don't know if he'd had discussions about it before, but one of those things where he told me, and it's like, yeah, all right, and I've heard this plenty of times before in British League kind of thing. And yeah, after I'd signed back, I signed back just before we played that first Challenge Cup final, actually. Probably should have signed just after that and got more. I could have asked for more money then, couldn't I? But I thought I'd best sign just in case it don't go right. But yeah, no, it were. And then after that, that's when they started discussing it, and Steve and the owners give it the all clear, and I kind of went across there not knowing what to expect or looking forward to it, a bit anxious as well, because it's you're a Brit, the thing that you know nothing, and yeah, I mean, getting to work with Marku, that were brilliant, and there's no other club in this league that would have done that. I know that there's other teams that have spoke saying, oh, we're going to get a goalie coach and we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but I don't think anyone actually has acted on those words, and they realise how much of an advantage, one, it were to have a brick goalie, but they also realise how important it is to invest in your goalies as well.
You mentioned there about the Challenge Cup. Extra special for you to do it in Sheffield?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, yeah. I mean, the main reason was because it was in front of my family. I had more family there than what I ever have done before, and Jade's family, parents were there as well, which made it even more special that we could all celebrate together. But no, I think it's. I'm pretty sure it's correct because Dan Brabham always talks to me about it and always quotes about it. But he says every time I've won something for the first time, so the cup, the league, and the playoffs were the first time I ever won it. Were always against Sheffield, which is it's kind of weird, but it's it also adds that little bit of niceness to it as well for me. It's obviously they've beat us plenty of times, and it's nice to beat them to those things. But obviously for them to be my first titles, it's nice to do it against your hometown team and have your family there watching as well, which is even better. So, but yeah, that first final. Again, I was a bit younger, and it was the first silverware I'd won in a few years. I got used to being at the bottom with Hull for those 2 years, and I kind of wish I'd been able to take a bit more in and just embrace it that little bit more and spent a bit more time with the guys. But it were looking back, it's absolutely awesome, and like it's so special to have been able to do that for my first ever championship.
Did you feel like you proved a point winning that first trophy? I think it's probably fair to say that people from the outside looking in at that roster would maybe have at the beginning of the year said, what can Ben Bowns do in this jump up? So to win a trophy in that first season and to do it's a tight game, you know, it's a game where, you know, goalies have to come up big. Do you feel like you proved a bit of a point?
Yeah, probably. We're a little bit of an exclamation mark, I think, or a stamp on it, just saying, look, I'm not here to just make up numbers, I'm here to prove a point. Murph's been there and done it, Stevie Lyle's been there and done it, now I want to be there and do everything that they have. And there's a lot of questions coming into it and a lot of questions why have Cardiff signed him, but I mean, you just have to look at that team. I mean, on paper, it might sound really negative, but I think if you looked the way that it was built, only having 6 weeks, and the team that like Sheffield had and stuff like that, we're probably like a mid-table team on paper, and all of a sudden we come to. I mean, at one point we were down in 8th. I can remember Laudo losing his head on training once. I think guys weren't going quite hard enough, and there were a pass that got missed, and he just lost his mind, and he's like, well, "Do you not realise we're an 8th place team?" And I think that's when everyone was like, "Oh, hang on a minute, he's got a point here." Just because we're putting on a show, we're having a few fights, and there's a lot of physicality in these games. The fans are loving it, but in reality, you're in 8th place. You're just above that dropout zone for the playoffs, and it kicked everyone into gear, and we massively overachieved. So I think, from a personal point of view, and being able to look at like a Ben Bowns at net, is won his first championship with that pressure, but also on a team that's overachieving. So it just shows that what potential he does have.
After that Challenge Cup victory, there's a gradual build over a few seasons where it's clear that the league title is becoming the priority for you and the guys. Narrowly missing out on the last weekends again. I think, you know, extra 5 points and would have been 2 extra league titles, but particularly the first season here at the Viola, it's pretty much just a 2-horse race, Sheffield against Cardiff, and we have the famous "I hate them" interview from yourself, but I don't want to dwell on what you said, more that it felt, looking back, you seem to be growing into a bit more of a leader on the ice, and in the locker room you seem to enjoy being a bit more vocal and being more of a spokesperson around the team. How was that development of yourself as a guy on the team rather than just as a goaltender during that time?
I think that's one of the things that Laura used to be on me about, wanting me to kind of grow into that leadership role and take it on. And back then I was still kind of young for a starting goalie, and I think obviously should I have said something different? Yeah, definitely. But I mean, when they're big rivals of your hometown team, that they've beat you to it for the last however many years and dominated that league for a few years in a row, it starts getting you, especially when we've been as close as we had the previous 2 years. And I thought that they always had a mental edge, and my goal with that interview was to try and turn it around. I know it definitely did. I mean, I think it was a week after we weren't playing them for a fair few weeks, and now there was a big article on me in their programme, which shows it like straight away you're in there. But it were taken out of context. But at the end of the day, you said that you hate a team. People are going to react like that, and you should expect it. But no, there were a lot of things in that interview that I said that we're kind of a message to everyone within our club, and I think a lot of the players did recognise that, and I got quite a few texts over those next few days when they started listening to it. One, they were taking the mickey out of me for what I said, but then they're saying the rest of it, actually the message were really good, and it's nice that someone finally come out and said it.
You go into Sheffield at the end of that season carrying a bit of a knock from the week before. There was no real clear decision on whether you were going to play or not, at least publicly.
Yeah.
In an emphatic win to seal that league title. Talk us through the week leading up to that. How were you physically, and just how much of a relief was it to finally break that duck and get your hands on that league title?
So it made it special just with, I mean, I still get goosebumps thinking about it now, but yeah, that week before, I mean, I've never been in so much pain in my life. I knew as soon as I felt it, something had gone bad. But yeah, I was actually on crutches until the Thursday. And I'm glad that I didn't actually go and get a scan, because when the scan came through, it was about 7 weeks later, and I went and got one. I mean, I'd won the league, we took the playoff final all that way. Obviously, it weren't nice to lose out like that, and then we'd won a gold medal with GB, and I would have missed all that if I'd have gone for that scan, because they said I would have basically had my leg in a cast, So I probably wouldn't have been struggling like I were for the next few years with it, but at the same time, I'm glad it went that way, because it meant I could do what I did. And yeah, that week building up to it were hard. I mean, like I say, we were on crutches. You were so close to winning that league, and I can remember the Friday night I was sat watching the Sheffield-Belfast game when Belfast beat them. I thought, we can win these tomorrow, and I texted her, I'm like, I want to play this game. I mean, we would have won it whether I played on Merds, because it weren't like the Merds as a backup were not much of a drop-off for me, if any drop-off at all. It was just a slightly different style of goalie, but I just really wanted to play it. I wanted, because of what had happened, and something that was said to me while I was getting treatment as well. It just really fired me up, and it was the morning of the game on the Saturday that I came in. I can't remember who was on the ice with me and another guy, and Kate, the doctor, came in slightly early and gave me a shot just to test my ankle. It weren't the steroidal one. It was just the local anaesthetic just to numb it. And I'm like, do you know what? I could probably play on it, Lord, or at least back up. And when you look back at that, it's kind of funny, because it was almost like we'd scripted it, because I think with Sam Gospel, I think, from Telford, they got him, they'd registered him, it was all set to go as a backup. I think Dougie Clark's actually tweeted saying, I'm pumped for you. And then, and then obviously that happened. I decided to play Lord of Adders, and I can remember walking into the rink, and I don't know why it was like a last minute thing. The bus driver Lewis were like, "Oh, why don't I carry you back?" I'm like, "Yeah, take that. I'll walk in on crutch again." And to be fair, I did still need the crutch, but I walked in on the crutch. I didn't have my bag, and I can remember there was someone there, and the saw was coming in. They run straight through, and I think they give some feedback. I don't know for definite, but I think I think
Bowns has arrived on crutch.
Yeah. So that went out, and yeah, I warmed up and everything, but I had to get the shots again. So I had the local anaesthetic in my ankle, but it was delayed a little bit. They had to do a second shot as well, and I can remember going in and saying, like, guys, I'm going to be late, so just go out. And obviously Merz walks out onto the ice, and I can remember coming on a bit later, and the crowd, our fans just went nuts, and I don't think I've ever been that pumped up for a warm up in my life. I can remember seeing myself on a big screen and hearing the noise. It were amazing. And yeah, I got all fired up, run on and jumped on ice, and as soon as I landed on my ankle, like, what am I doing here? Like, this just give me that little thing, say, hang on a minute, you can't do what you usually do. But it, like I say, it couldn't have gone really much better than what it were, and I think the anaesthetic started wearing off about halfway through third, but by that time, guys had done such a good job in front of me that it were already in bag.
Adrenaline took over, away from that.
Definitely did then, yeah, definitely did.
You talked a lot about Thomas Moody there. It's been clear, from when you recommended that he come into the club, that you've had a special partnership. How much credit do you kind of give him for your success and how much you've achieved here in Cardiff?
Oh, he'll probably want me to say nothing. But so if Merds listens to this, I'll say he had nothing to do with it, and now he can switch it off, kind of. But no, Merds is it's been massive. Is like I say, best man at my wedding, so that shows you how close we are. And it wasn't just for me personally. I mean, he pushed me. I mean, we'd be playing games, little tight cross-ice games, or would split it up, and you'd look across and he's flying across making all these saves, and you think, God, give me a break, I just want to rest, I want to be able to like just ease my way into this training session, or and then I'd have to try and match what you were doing, or pull off a big save just to be like, all right, I can do that as well, stop showing off. But it weren't just for me, it's around the dressing room as well. I mean, to have a goalie of his calibre at the other end of the ice for the guys, and then his character in the room, it just brings that team together. And when you've got goalies that are getting on as well as we do, it makes it easier on everyone else. And I know that Lordo mentioned in an email that it were quite nice that he could just kind of leave me and Merge, and obviously Brabs as well, to just go off and do our own things, and it knew that we'd do it and would work on stuff. And yeah, to have that relationship where you can work with each other and give each other pointers, and not pointers in a way that you know that it's going to affect them in a negative way. You're doing it because you want them to improve. And it's, for me, it's just massive having him, and that's one thing I'm going to really miss him with.
You established yourself at club level, at league level. There was then a point where you established yourself on the world stage, world championships, gold medals, staying in Pool A, a Great Britain adventure that, you know, is sort of echoed around the world, really. You seem to be everyone's favourite team, second favourite team in Pool A. How important do you think it was taking what you guys had built at club level and then trying to feed that in at a national level?
Well, I mean, for us personally, I think like myself, Richie, Mizey, Bachi when he's with GB, it's big to have that kind of philosophy that we have in Cardiff, because it gets ingrained in you. It's like a winner's mentality, and it does spread throughout the team. But then we also had Sheffield players that have winners' mentalities. Nottingham players have been there. I mean, look how many Challenge Cups they've won. So to be fair, you look at that, the GB team, and it is actually full of winners in your domestic league. I mean, the Belfast guys, they've won plenty as well. And so yeah, we never really had to take it and really push it into there. I mean, we all have different mentalities, we all have different mindsets, we all have different views. And but the one big thing about GB is it's just one big family. And I think sometimes, I mean, even this season when it got a little bit stressful and stuff, and we're going through a rough patch year, you go to GB and it didn't go our way, and that were dead disappointing. But it were like a reset, and just being with those guys, then you come back just loving life again, and you're back into it. And that's one thing. Like we never, I don't think the guys will mind me saying this, but we're never really the best team there on paper. But we're definitely not the best team on the ice when you're going up against Canada and stuff. But the unity that we have and the way that we play for each other is just different to any other team, and we're probably the best team in the world at doing that, in my opinion.
Personally, how did you assess that year in Pool A? You certainly got a lot of attention with a lot of individual saves that were played on every highlight reel around the world. You're an ambitious guy. You must have felt like this was kind of justification for all the decisions that you made, that now you kind of get this personal spotlight. It were
definitely different. I'll give you that. But no, I mean, the media attention was just another level. It's something that at the start of it were a bit daunting. I mean, when Chris Ellis is saying, Bowns, you got to go and do an interview with Swedish TV or Slovakian TV, New York. I think there were one for New York Times actually after one at games, and you just think, oh my God. But by the end of it, you get used to it. It actually gets quite fun. Actually, it's nice having all these different countries, these big hockey nations wanting to talk to you and talk to the guys on your team. It's absolutely brilliant. I mean, at the end after a game, when you're sweating buckets and everything, the last thing you want to do is have 8 interviews. But yeah, like I say, you get used to it, and it were pretty awesome. But for me personally, when I look back at my performances, it is a little bit disappointing with some of the games, and I'd like to have been a bit more consistent. But at the same time, I'm proud of what I did. There were some games, and I mean, the bounce back I had against USA after the terrible showing that I put up against Denmark and stuff like that, and just sending a message to guys saying, look, it were a blip. We're not. It's not going to be like that for the rest of this tournament. We're going to stay up here, and to finish it the way that we did with France, were definitely, if you want to talk about like justification or whatever, that definitely were, because you look at that last, well, just that overtime period, it were nuts. I mean, they had 2 huge chances, and somehow we managed to keep it. I mean, one of them, I've told that story plenty of times, but my pad's not even on my leg because Stevie Lee had fallen on me and ripped it off, and it still manages to hit me in armpit and just sticks there. So yeah, they had those 2 mega chances, and all of a sudden, I mean, how often do you see a face-off one as clean as that, and a guy has a full-length foot race and makes a pass, and you've won? it was just, it's amazing. It's, yeah, looking back on that, I know obviously there's Devils interview, but no matter what I've won with Devils, and it's all been major highs, but that was, I don't think that it'll ever get better, and that was to win 7th place and stay up with it. So if you'd have told me that your greatest hockey achievement today is going to be coming 7th at a championship, I would have told you you're crazy. But no, that's definitely something really, really special. Whose idea was the song? That's been around for years, actually. I don't know who started it. I have a feeling it could have been David Phillips, because he's one for that. But, yeah, that just come out of nowhere. And again, that's another thing that went viral as well, isn't it? So, but yeah, it just shows you that we are realistic with GB, and we never take ourselves too seriously. I think when you go into those tournaments, and especially up in that division, when you're getting pumped in a few games and it's just relentless, you've got to stay grounded. You can't get down, you can't get too high at the same time. And I think after that game, it just made everyone realise what kind of a team, what kind of a group we were.
Still in Pool A, of course, postponed due to all of the world events at the moment. But as you take your next step at club level, this must be good for Great Britain, for you now to take a step up in week-to-week hockey. And yeah, do you feel like it's going to set you up to be even better going into your second Pool A tournament?
Definitely open so. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be more of a Euro style, obviously, than what we used to here. A bit more fluid, a bit more fluent than the stop-start stuff that you can have here. And there's a few more physical battles on the board in our league than what there is in the European League. So yeah, definitely over there, I'm hoping that it's going to set me up. I'll be moving a bit more into games, just like I would be in the World Championship. So I'm hoping that, yeah, like you say, it does set me up a little bit better, and hopefully we'll get to find that out next year.
Coming back to Cardiff and some Devils memories, league wins were the long slog, the long haul, but you have got 2 playoff winners' medals as well. Is there more pressure on you in that smaller format?
Yes and no. I mean, it is a case of, well, you either win or you don't. That's it, and it kind of, that's the one thing that does always, I think, hamper the Elite League's reputation, that it is just literally 4 games to win a title, and you don't even have to win every single one of them. But yeah, the thing is, when you do actually win those finals, it's probably the most fun championship to win. It's unbelievable. I mean, the atmosphere at Nottingham is amazing. It's crazy. I mean, I get best view ever from my net. I get to see all the guys in front of me, and I get to take it in. And it's just all the different colours of the league: your purples, your oranges, your reds, your yellows, everything, your blues. It just looks so unreal, and there's all these different chants going off. It's never just one side or whatever. It's pretty awesome, and one of my favourite memories of my dad actually were the first year we won the playoffs. I can remember Mo scores the empty net goal, and obviously everything goes crazy. I think I went to the bench, and as I'm coming back to my net, I'm thinking, oh, my dad's not where he is, because I have my little focus points to reset on, and it's usually something familiar, or my family or whatever, and that's where I was just looking in the breaks and think, oh, my dad had gone to the bar and missed this, and for a pint, and then I saw this fat bloke behind glass banging on it with his pint in his hand, and I'm like, oh, that's my dad there. And yeah, it kind of actually made me a bit emotional, because it made you realise how much it meant to your parents as well, and obviously the journey that they've been on with me. It were kind of nice to see that. It was really nice to see that.
For the second playoff win, I think that win was probably laid on a foundation of your save late in the second period on Jordan Smitherman. Fans will wax lyrical about a save like that, but for you, would you have been disappointed if you hadn't made that save?
Yeah, I would have. I mean, obviously the play, the guy who passed it actually makes a really nice play. He could have jammed it there. He could have stepped out and shot a little bit, and I think Bashy said it went through his legs as well. So obviously it's a nice little pass. It's a hard play to read for players and goalies, just because the guy who made the pass from down low had a few good options. But yeah, I mean, I got my eyes on it, and there is that moment where you're thinking, oh no. I'll not say exactly what you're thinking. We're being on camera, you'd have to bleep it out, but you're thinking, oh no. But no, it's a case of just getting your eyes on it as quick as you can, locate, and then just not giving up on it. And that's one thing I teach all the goalies, all the kids when I coach them. If you want to make it in this sport, you can't give up on any single play. And that's one of the things where I think it's technique, it's not giving up. it's a little bit of luck as well. It's a lot of luck as well because it goes right in my glove and I managed to hold on to it. But if you don't compete and you give up on that play, you don't even get a chance to make those saves.
And I think if you look at your highlight reel of the fantastic saves that you make, that is usually the theme. You haven't given up on a play. It's a dive-in play. It's it's a last gasp thing. I think that when you look back at your Cardiff highlights, that is probably the thing that would come through for me as well.
I think that stems right back to before I went out with Marco as well, and before I come to Cardiff, because obviously I've always been a bigger goalie, and bigger goalies tend to struggle a bit more with their movement. So I did, to counteract me not being able to move like merds, I had to compete 10 times harder than anyone else just to make saves, and Passy were again a prime example of doing that. And I think now I'm probably a more boring goalie to watch because my technique is a million times better than my first few years in Cardiff. I mean, it's better than this season. We're better than the season before, and that season we're better than the season before that. So I think when your technique's better, you do make more boring saves because you're in position. But yeah, I think that competitiveness and that being able to make those saves does come from back when I didn't have quite as good technique and having to compete just to make normal saves.
Out of all the trophies that you've won in a Devils uniform, what's your favourite?
I don't know. Probably the last. Actually, it would have been the last playoff trophy. I mean, to lose a league like we did, we're proud of that team. I mean, we probably should have been out of that title race long before we were, and it was gutting to lose like we did. So to then get that retribution in that final game and obviously play it like I did personally, that's probably my favourite. And we had a lot of fun after that, and I was looking forward to obviously getting that title this year, and that's a point for another day and another sour point. But yeah, that would have been that could have been one of my new favourites, I feel.
You leave at the same time as Andrew Lloyd's leaving the club as well. Just a few comments about your relationship with Lloyd, to have played under him for the last 6 seasons and to have enjoyed so much success together must be pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably be happy they don't have to coach me anymore, to be fair. There were a few things that I used to do to try and wind him up and get him going a few times. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But no, you know, Lauder's awesome. He's been great with me. There's not much else I can say. I mean, words can't really describe how good he's been for me and how good he's been for the guys. And he obviously deserves this chance that he's getting. And yeah, it's like I say, it's hard to describe the way that I do feel about him as a coach and the way that he's helped me. So it's like I say, it's probably going to be nice for him being away from me, but I'm definitely going to miss him, and it's nice to see him get this chance and just get what he deserves. And like I say, without him, the club wouldn't have won all these titles, because at the end of the day, it does lie with the players, but it starts from your coach, and he set the tone from when he was a player coach to just being behind the bench. And you see the time he puts in, you see the work he puts in, the effort, you see how much he cares, and it makes it even more special to then win for him and win with him.
If you could give one memory to sum up your time as a Cardiff Devils player, could you pinpoint one? If someone asked you when you move over to Graz, just sum up what your time was like at the Cardiff Devils, what would you choose?
I don't know, I think there's too many to really. I'll probably think of one 5 minutes after we finish this interview, but no, you know, there's probably a few that I can't say because they're behind closed doors and end of season parties and stuff like that. But no, I mean,
appear in any of those stories by any chance?
Yeah, there's a few. You'd be surprised at who appears in some of them, but yeah, no, it's the guys. 100% it's the guys. I mean, obviously the fans are passionate, but the guys are just a different level. That core group and the guys that come in and buy in every year, they're what make it special. And for me, this franchise is built. It's built around the fans, but it's built from the players. And you don't get a franchise to be like this without the players being like they are, without Todd being like he is, without the owners being like he is, and the owners. That's another point. I mean, you can harp. Everyone always says, "Oh, like." Guys in Cardiff, like players in Cardiff, the club just absolutely bums the owners. Basically, that's basically. I don't really know any other phrase that I can turn that into, but it's like, well, you do it for a reason, because there's no other owners like that in the league. And like I say, it starts from them, it breeds downwards, and it gets to the players, and then the players turn it on the ice. And you see the victories that we've had over these past 6 years. It's a special group to be able to do that, and it'd be all about the guys. If any memories, it's just. they'd all be with the guys.
Why move now? What was it that you decided now is the time? Because I think many people expected it last year after the Pool A's. So what is it about this season that you felt the time was right?
I think it was either now or never. Last year I had some good interest in me. There were one in the Ebble actually. There was one that came a bit late on, just around when my claws kicked in, that was in the NLA, which would have been unbelievable. But looking back, the best thing I could have done was stay in Cardiff, because we had a shorter summer. With a lot of games that I played the season before that, and obviously the Worlds finished that off with an absolute. They just killed you for 10 days, having to play at that level like that for 7 games in 10 days or whatever it were. It really took it out of you. And then obviously we got married, we had our honeymoon, so the summer went from being okay but still short to mega short. And I think if it had gone somewhere else, we wouldn't have been settled, we wouldn't have been prepared properly with Zero. It gave me the chance to prepare and get ready for the season in a way that I was happy with. But this season, yeah, like I say, we're now or never, and it just feels like it feels right. Like we're saying off camera, it's like kicked in that I'm leaving. I still feel like a devil. I still want to be a devil. But no, it's just if you want to look at it from a winning point of view, I've won everything I can in this league. It's trophy wise, personal wise. The only thing that, as alluded, is that Grand Slam, which would have been imperfect. And like I say, it's gutting to kind of end it in the way that it has this year with the virus and everything. Obviously, there's bigger things to play, but it would have been nice to have won that league, which I'm sure we would have done by the Wednesday or the following Saturday after it got cancelled. There were no question about that this year, and there were no way that anyone were going to catch us. So it would have been nice to have won that league and finish off and being able to say goodbye and a thank you to fans properly. But at the same time, you say that, and there's guys in worse positions than me that have retired and not been able to say a goodbye properly. And for me, that's probably the saddest part about all of this. It's I'm lucky enough to still be playing and not have had a chance to say goodbye. Whereas, like I said, there's Benty, who's retired and he didn't get the proper send off that he deserves.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of people watching this interview for your next destination. So, why Graz? Well, what was it about that club that you were drawn to?
Well, they're a great team in the Ebble. They're a great organisation, and obviously we'd been there with the Devils in the CHL, and the arena is brilliant. The facilities are top notch. So when I knew they were interested, that's one thing I wanted to jump all over it. It's looking at it from my point of view as well. Obviously, Doug's an English-speaking coach, which makes my life a lot harder. It won't make a difference, obviously, if he wasn't. I'd still want to go and do it, and you'd have to learn the language even more than what we're trying to. But then on top of that, obviously, Dees and Gwen are there as well, and from Jade's point of view, it's going to make it easier for her to settle abroad with someone that she knows, so everything kind of adds up. And once I heard they were interested, it was definitely a bit of a no-brainer for me and get on it. And like I say, I know I'm going to a great organisation, great club. It's got a lot of history behind it, and they've been on the up for the last few years, and hopefully we continue over there on the way up as well and win a playoff title there.
Ben, do you have a parting message to the Cardiff Devils fans? Obvious from this interview and the way that you've interacted with them over the years. The Bouncy wave, of course, was something that's going to be iconic for many Devils fans after victories here. But have you just got a sort of parting message as you go off to your next adventure?
There's not much I can really say apart from thank you. Obviously, it's been awesome, and I'm going to try not to cry like Lord over here. But yeah, no, it's been amazing. It's Cardiff's. It's not just a team for me. It's our life now. We live down here. We got married down here. We got a dog down here. Obviously, it's not a kid, but it's part of the family. So I mean, there's so much things within that I've got from Cardiff. It's not just been a contract. It's not just been a job. It's become my life. It's become my home. So for the fans, it's just thank you, and just keep going. Get back to that atmosphere that we used to have, that the big blue tent and that togetherness. I do think that. This year was actually back on track, I think, and I think we lost it for a few years when we started winning stuff, where I think there were a few more segregations within the fan base and a bit more negativity around the club, but that comes as you're winning, and I think just come to games and have fun. I mean, that Block 13 injected a hell of a lot of atmosphere into here, and it seemed to bring a lot of fun back to the fans for him. And you know, if you're paying your money and you're coming to watch the guys play on the ice, you might as well come and have fun, aren't you? So yeah, but for me personally, just thank you for it. I mean, it's for the way that you treated me, the way that they treated my family. We couldn't have asked for anything better, and yeah, just thank you, really.
Well, Ben, on behalf of all the Devils fans, we obviously wish you the best of luck. Obviously very sorry to see you go. We hope to have you back one day in the Viola Arena, back tending net, but just best of luck on this adventure, and wherever the next sort of few years take you. Every Devils fan will be keeping an eye, and yeah, good luck.
Thank you.